Ekweremadu has just been jailed for 9 years and 8 months. He, of course, had 2 co-defendants. There were 3, but we know that Sonia Ekweremadu was found not guilty in March. But his wife, Beatrice, today has been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison, while Obinna Obeta, described as the middleman, has received a 10-year prison term. Now, as to be expected, the entire court gallery was full. We had media from across the spectrum. In fact, something that was only introduced into the British court this year was the fact that the judge's ruling was filmed live on a very popular channel here, Sky News. So the entirety of this country have been following this case. Of course, we know from following this case extensively last few days, Laddie, where we have had a significant number of letters of clemency. This was spoken of by the defense lawyer. And in fact, the judge did actually say one of the reasons why he reduced the sentence for the senator was because of those letters. He received 51 in total, including from the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, describing Ekweremadu as a good man, a decent man, a lawyer of significance, somebody who spent a long time at the top of politics. His fall from grace couldn't be any more glaring or any more significant. And he said he took that into consideration and reduced his sentence. But he said, and disagreeing with what the statements were from the defense team, that he knew all along what he was doing, considering he was so intelligent, was so fundamental to the birthing of democracy in Nigeria and in fact ECOWAS, and he himself, he said, was part of drafting the piece of legislature which actually made this human trafficking illegal in Nigeria. So he said he knew what he was doing, he was culpable, and he had no option but to give him this 9 years and 8 months sentence. And now, as has been described and as we know, this is not a normal case. In fact, this is a landmark trial in the UK. Nobody in this country has ever been charged and prosecuted and convicted of Section 2 of the Modern Slavery Act of 2015, and that the intent, and let's talk about the intent was, of course, to save the life of their daughter Sonia. Sonia, of course, was in court today. I sat beside her during the proceedings. I saw her and spoke to her briefly after the ruling. She was absolutely devastated. In fact, both the prosecution lawyer, Casey Hugh Davis, as well as the judge, did say everybody, not just parents, but everybody following the case, do have some sympathy for her. And in fact, the defense lawyer, Laddie, did ask the court to perhaps suspend the sentence of her mother, Beatrice, because, of course, this costs, in terms of her kidney dialysis, a significant amount of money. And with both parents being in jail, how would they be able to afford it? The defense lawyer for Beatrice Ekweremadu pleaded for a suspended sentence. That obviously hasn't happened. She's been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison. I'm sure we've got our producers going now through the time they've spent in custody, because of course they've spent a significant amount of time in custody. This is going to be taken into account. So with the 4 years and 6 months, for example, that Beatrice got, and because of the laws in this country, she will spend half of that sentence in prison and the rest on license, where you're tagged and you have a curfew, and of course taken into account the 100 or so days that they've been in court. I've got to tell you, it was very dramatic, very tense at times. Laddie, as you know, Channels Television in London has been covering the entirety of the case, including when it first came into the public domain in the summer of last year. I've got to tell you, looking at the senator today, he did look like a broken man. He's clearly lost a significant amount of weight. He is not sleeping. There was a large cohort of delegation of senators and House of Representatives that have flown in. I did speak to a few of them on record, and I can tell you for a fact that the senator is suffering from significant mental health issues. I won't go into the details of it, but they are very afraid of him trying to take his own life. That is how serious this is. I did speak to the Sunrise team this morning. I was asked whether or not the letters and the pleading of clemency would be taken into account. I wasn't sure of that, but it did make a difference. The judge said in his summary that he read each and every individual of those 51 letters, and he did say about all three of the defendants that they were of good character, and that this is an isolated case and it is landmark in its fruition. So yes, just to re-emphasize the breaking news that's just happened just less than 30 minutes ago. The former Deputy Senate President, just a couple of years ago, one of the most powerful men, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa, Ekweremadu, has been jailed today at the Old Bailey for 9 years and 8 months. His wife, Beatrice, has been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison, while Dr. Obinna Obeta, the middleman in this case, has been sentenced to 10 years.
Juliana, thank you very much for your reporting and for your continuous coverage of this story. It's breaking news out of London, and we'll keep tabs on it. But before you go, perhaps I can just ask you about, are there any options of appeal available to the senator and his wife?
I absolutely believe so, Laddie, and I think just for the fact that this is a landmark case in the United Kingdom, I think anybody that's been following news about the issues the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister have been having about cross-channel trafficking and the issue that they have of human traffickers getting people into this country, that's a huge issue. In fact, if we go and listen, or if I reflect back to some of the details that the defense lawyer of Beatrice was saying, he was using cases as examples of individuals, human traffickers, who fall under the Modern Slavery Act of raping women, bringing women into this country where they are subject to horrendous conditions, years of solitude, financial deprivation. This is not the case in this trial. This is a case of a victim of circumstance. Certainly, a crime has been committed here, but does the senator and does this conspiracy warrant over 10 years in prison, or up to 10 years in prison? Another significant factor, which I should mention, is the victim who, just to be clear and just to make it clear for our channel, still cannot be named for legal reasons. There is a reporting restriction on this individual's name. He was shown to be a liar. He lied on several occasions. We were shown 2 pieces of crucial evidence where he handed himself into police on the 5th of May. So in fact, as time would have it, exactly a year ago today, this victim handed himself into police. He lied to police, saying that he was 15 years old, that he had no family, that his parents died when he was very young. We know that's not the case anymore. He also lied on a second occasion to police. We saw that video evidence. Is this individual somebody of good character? Well, that's something for the defense lawyers to try and appeal in court. Certainly, there will be an appeal. There is outrage, not just from the delegation that flew in, but from those who believe that the intent was never evil, and the fact that the act wasn't taken out. So yes, this is it's a case that has stirred plenty of emotion, not least from those in the public gallery, but also the defense lawyers, and including the judge, who, like I said in his ruling, did say that the senator is a man of good character. Just very briefly as well, Laddie, just to mention in terms of appeal, can the senator afford to appeal this case? He has spent a ridiculous amount of money on his legal counsel, not only for himself, but of course for his wife and Sonia, trying to undergo private medical care in this country costs a significant amount of money. We know that there are several parts of his fortune that have been seized or under question by the EFCC that were mentioned several times during court. In fact, his own lawyer did say that he's upwards of £1 million in debt, and that to fund this case he has had to borrow money left, right and centre. So it's obvious to presume that yes, of course they would be appealing this ruling, but can the senator afford it? Another question for the Nigerian government is, was it too little too late? Should these pleas of clemency have arrived before the new year, Laddie? Why was it at the last stage that we did start seeing these letters? In fact, I think the most significant letter we saw at the beginning was from the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. The judge said he took this into account. Perhaps if this information was to have got to the Crown Prosecution Service prior to the case going to court, we could have been in a different situation. But again, to reiterate the breaking news from the top of the hour, the senator has been jailed for 9 years and 8 months. Beatrice Ekweremadu has been jailed for 4 years and 6 months. And Obinna Obeta, the middleman in this organ harvesting trial, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison at the Old Bailey today.
Thank you so very much, Juliana Olayinka, our London bureau chief, reporting there on the breaking story out of the British capital that former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu has been sentenced to 9 years and 8 months as a result of his conviction over the organ harvesting case, which has been ongoing in the United Kingdom. His wife got, that's Beatrice, got 4 years and 6 months. And Obinna Obeta, Dr. Obinna Obeta, who is described as the middleman in the case, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Thank you very much, Juliana, for your reporting. And so at that point, our breaking story, of course, is that Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu has received a sentence alongside his wife Beatrice over the organ harvesting case. They've been undergoing. The trial has been ongoing at the Old Bailey in London. For now, we return you to our regular programming, but of course we'll have news at the top of the hour. Thanks for staying tuned.
I tried to scream,